Man, I am not firing on all cylinders right now. That's fine. Let's get this show on the road. I got a couple things to talk about, but otherwise we'll just spitball this fricker. All right. Share. Boom, boom, boom. What is happening, Restoration Rebels? This is Andy McCabe, and it is the 2nd of March, 2023, and this is the Restoration Rebel Roundtable. As we do always every week is we read the agreements, and then we get down to business. So here we go. Rebel Agreement number 1, I will protect the value of my services. Offering free services, i.e. free estimates, comp bids, only serves to erode the value of similar services industry-wide. Agreement number 2, I will practice incredible transparency. I will explain the claim process to my client. I will not hide pricing details or falsify reports. I will never communicate with an adjuster without also communicating with my client. And maybe not ever communicate with an adjuster. Ever. Okay, that's a little extreme. Agreement number 3, I do not believe in competition. Restoration companies in my market are part of my community. I will be an active member of my community. It is our unbreakable unity that will create the change that we strive for. And number 4, I am willing to walk away from any project, client, or contract that is not compatible with my values and stated mission. No relationship is worth losing money, sleep, or my humanity. I want to give a shout out to Actionable Insights, getinsights.org. I'm going to put that in the chat over on Facebook. Let's go getinsights.org. And if you use the code McCabe, or I think it's 90% off the actionable profile, or either, I think it's 30 days. So essentially try it before you buy it. Use the McCabe code and you're off to the races. All right. There should be one more participant in this webinar that I'm not seeing.
Why? So for everybody that's aware on the actionable insight, that goes from 160 down to what? Oh shit, hang on. 160 minus 90%. That's $16 for the month. It is well worth you to try it with that kind of price to give it a shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
The math on it works out that if you write 4 estimates a week for 4 weeks, you got to, if it doesn't help you find $12 per, or you have to find only $12 per estimate using the profile to pay for itself.
Yep.
And I've never seen them find less than $20 on average.
Yeah. It's just the way of the future. So unless you like horse and buggy and wagon wheels, get with it. Get on the board. I have a tool that I've been using called read.ai in my Zoom and Google meetings. But for some reason, it's not running on this particular meeting. And I'm trying to figure that out right now. Why? So, appraisal. Joe, are you still not seeing a lot of appraisals in your world?
I don't see, I've literally talked to people about trying to get, and I know a few people that are appraisals, but literally, like, at least here in Indianapolis, appraisals are just not that commonplace. Like most of the time, like, and I think also, I mean, I think we're in a unique situation because everybody in my market of Indianapolis, like, for the most part, I know pretty much everybody, every company, because we've all been in it for so long. So I think at this point, we all know how to play the game. To the point, restoration companies don't need them, but I mean, everyone I talk to, it's roofing or just general contractors trying to get into the game. They're having to use them a lot. But I mean, does that make sense?
Well, I'm seeing a lot of appraisal work coming out of Hurricane Irma. Was that, that was the last one, right?
Yeah, the hurricane's a lot different. That's for sure.
So the guys that traveled, that went down there, and they're going back in their home states, and they're realizing that quick, easy money was not so quick and not so easy. And a lot of that's being turned into appraisal right now. I got a call from a guy in Montana who is dealing with his first appraisal right now, and he's operating under assignment of benefits. And his question to me was, can't I just sue these guys? Can't I just sue them to collect? And, I would say if he didn't have an assignment of benefits in place, he could probably do that. I'm no attorney. Don't get me wrong. I don't know, I know enough to be dangerous. But since he got an assignment of benefits, he is now stepping into the shoes of the insured, which makes him obliged to follow the provisions of that policy. And part of the provisions of the insurance policy is the appraisal provision. So I recommended it. It's he's in for a penny, he's in for a pound. He's gonna have to go through the appraisal process, and we're gonna start that process here shortly.
Well, that's one of the problems.
It's Liberty Mutual. Say that again.
I said that's one of the problems with the hurricane work is that most people don't quite understand that what you do on a day-to-day basis residential work is not at all what you're going to do in a hurricane work, and you can't bill it the same way. And I think that's why you see so many of these appraisals happening for the hurricane work, because like that FEMA paperwork I shared with you. You remember that piece of paperwork?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's how you bill. You are allowed to have it back, but you cannot put it as a line item. You can't do this here. And I think a lot of people, that's why the appraisal processes are happening for them, because they just don't know how to bill it correctly to get it covered or to get the thing taken care of.
Well, I think that's part of it, but I don't think that's the whole story. I think a lot of it is you have certain carriers, Liberty Mutual, one of them, Liberty Mutual Safeco, who have decided to use the appraisal clause to weaponize the appraisal clause against those contractors they see as outsiders. Those guys, they see it, you're charging too much. Anyone using a custom price list and still using Xactimate, I think Liberty's just going to shoot it out every single time. They're going to go to appraisal. The first, they're going to offer 50 cents on the dollar, and then they're going to shoot it to appraisal. I think that's just their SOPs at this point. At least that's my experience and the folks I'm talking to. So in that frame of mind, you've got to be prepared. And I told them, hey, this could be a $5,000 out of pocket for you to get the appraisal done. It could be $10,000. It just depends on a lot of different variables. But it's interesting that Liberty is choosing to send just mitigation to appraisal on these things. The repairs oftentimes are done and paid for, and they still haven't paid the mitigation because they don't want to set, in my mind, they don't want to set a precedent that they're willing to pay more than what they want to. And so it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle from here on out.
I've done a bunch of the work down there myself. And I will tell you, my biggest pain in the ass is my company was doing time and material. And then I've had to actually go back and input that into Xactimate because all the carriers are, for some reason, actually wanting it like line item down in Xactimate, thinking you're going to come in under. And what's funny is literally the FEMA adjusters have told me, they're like, if it's double the price, if you muck out at, instead of $3 a square foot, if it's at $7 a square foot, they're fine with that. It's the carriers though that complain about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's and they're not really complaining. They're just trying to step on the scale. They're just trying to save a buck, and the guys that go along with that allow them to get away with that. But all right, what else we got? You had some excitement that turned into not so exciting stuff having to do with a certain train derailment.
I'm not allowed to. I had to sign a paper saying I'm not allowed to talk about that.
Okay, we're not going to talk about it, but that was very interesting.
For anybody, my daytime company was asked to do possibly one of the largest projects a company could do in a single year, and it's a massive undertaking that I don't even want to do.
It's
the
huge.
Amount of red tape is involved is ridiculous in it, but
I think the amount of potential liability was gigantic. Yeah, just a mess. Well, what can we talk about, Joe? What are we allowed to talk about here?
Well,
I can go to the
mean,
Facebook page and we can talk about the bullshit that comes up in there. Let's do that.
yeah, that's always a fun-filled endeavor. I'm surprised there ain't nobody else on today. Everyone must actually be busy for once.
Well, what happened is the webinar expired, and so whoever probably tried to log in, you got the same message you did, and then I was sitting there going, "Where's my link? Where's my buttons?"
Saying Andy doesn't like us no more.
I don't like you guys anymore. We're dead. Okay, let's go down. I'm just going to share. Let's share this. Where's my share button? Let's just go down let's just go around the horn here. Okay. And what's John May up to? Okay. Who is everyone using for their business bank? Okay. Well, I don't. Okay. That's mundane. Insurance agents are one of the sacred cows in our industry. It's a huge stream of potential income for restoration companies. I haven't listened to this podcast yet, but I like. Who's in charge of MRM? Is that who is that? Oh, let's just click on the button. Hearts and Boots. Who does that?
Not exactly sure.
Hearts and Boots. Let's just click on Hearts and Boots. Who are they? Oh, so it's yeah, what's their faces? Out of Corvallis, Oregon. I haven't listened to any of these, but they got like, wow, 74 episodes. Okay. All right. I'm blanking on their name, but I know this one with the brown beard. I don't know this one with the mustache. But good guys, consulting in our space. So check them out. Let's do. Can we do a link here? How do we link this up? I'm just gonna copy this link. Copy link address. Let's throw that back in the. Let's throw that back in here. There. Okay, let's keep going down. Okay, has anyone had Traveler's Adjuster refuse a supplement for materials? Not sure how to move forward. I've never had this happen. All right.
I mean, outside of airing them using some ability, Travelers is by far the bane of my existence. So they are some of the hard. I mean, I have more success with State Farm than I do with Travelers. I'm dealing with.
Wow, that's saying something.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy says Travelers are the worst. We don't even take their claims. Wow. So I think at this point, given the Traveler's disposition to just try to F everybody, go to you bill your client, Brittany. Bill your client. And I hope that your contract with your client allowed for submitting supplemental things like this. If it didn't, you may have to eat that cost. All depends on your contract, though. Okay. How do you guys get your leads? Yeah, that's a boring conversation. I want to talk about leads. Okay. Dog. Okay. Who is this? Who's Doug Heifernanen? Totally unique IICRC certification courses. Exciting opportunity. Join Buster and me in April. Lovely lakeside facility. Well, April 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, I think that might not be good. Hold on.
RIA is the last week of April.
Is it? Okay. What's the date of the RIA?
21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, I think. I'm done, Javon. Okay, Xander, I'm on the phone. 24th.
24th through the 26th. And when is the golf tournament?
Oh, I'm too much of a hill golfing. Sorry.
Where's my schedule? Let's do that. Schedule at a glance. Let's try that. Pre-convention management golf tournament, AGA golf tournament on Monday the 24th, 8 to 1. Okay. All right. If you're not a member of the RIA, I suggest you become a member because up until the point the Restoration Rebels start charging for membership, this is where your dollars should go. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Okay. Philip says, hello, we have a couple customers that want us to do reconstruction because we have a fast turnaround. And even though even throw in extra items for free, why would you even volunteer that? Okay. However, insurance wants second bids for these jobs. How do we go about still landing these jobs? The customer wants to go with us, but insurance wants us out because our bid is higher.
Well, how do
This
you know it's
is,
higher if they're wanting multiple bids.
of course, it's higher. Well, you could skin this cat a couple different ways. You could go get your buddies around town to give second bids that are incredibly higher than yours, or you could just do a better job of selling to and educating your client.
Anybody, there's nowhere in anybody's coverage I've ever seen, or you've ever seen, I'm sure any, that dictates who they have to use on their home. If your client wants to use you, they are by no obligation, there's no obligation for them to actually have to get multiple bids. Now, the carrier might want other bids to see how close you are to it, but tell the homeowner, say, hey, if you want other bids, like, go get them, because this is who I want to use and it's my choice. That's like when you get having car work done and they're like, oh, you should take it to this dealership to get it worked on. You're like, no, I want to take it to the guy I take my car to all the time. And they say, okay, like, just tell your clients to tell the adjuster, this is who I want to use. If you want to send somebody out for a comparative bid, go right ahead, but they're not going to waste their time. They already know who they want to use, and that's me. That's what I would tell them.
And I agree with Todd. I agree with you, Joe, first. Second, Todd, I agree with you. It isn't the carrier's decision who they use. They are also not required to get multiple bids. Keep your invoice fair and just, it will get paid. And then stick to your guns. Yeah, 100%. Damon says your best bet is to have your customer sign your contract and have them tell the carrier, this is my contractor of choice. Always build your rapport with the homeowner, explaining the insurance process and the games they play. Yeah. All of the above. Yes. Next. Does anyone use a smart lock for their office that opens? Why is this in? Okay. Whatever.
They're wanting to put a lock on the doors. They're stop doors and track who comes in and out.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. I can't help you with that. Everyone knows there's, George Weeks, new experiences all the time with this work. So, he's going off to New Zealand. All right, George, have fun. Have fun in New Zealand. Okay.
I will say that's something I've always wanted to do, is like do international work and see what the rules are, see how things are in other places.
I've got an open invitation from a restorer in Ireland, and I'm thinking more and more I just go on a working vacation. I will work for you. I will come work for you for 2 weeks. Okay. And Allstate adjuster I've been having issues with now wants to work directly with my company and leave the owner out. Okay. What does that mean? He told the homeowner they would work together to contest any portion of the charges that are unreasonable. He sent a very long email of what I need to send him for documentation. I don't have a contact at Allstate. How should I respond? Well, you should respond, Brianne, that you don't work for Allstate and your homeowner is going to be involved in all communications. And your documentation, you can share your documentation with Allstate if you choose, but I would invite you to share it with your client and have your client pass that documentation on. And then have them ask Allstate, where in their policy does it require us to give you this information? Period. End of story. Okay, we don't search for approval. Brianne. Okay. What else we got here? This looks like a long one.
Let's see.
Project Manager 101 boils down to these 5 things: writing and working an effective schedule, communicating with the customer, communicating with your subcontractor, updating your notes, documenting, taking photos. These are his big 5 things. He and I know there are more complexities. The question, what are your big 5 things for Construction Estimator 101? Oh, so that was Project Manager 101, Construction Estimator 101. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to go to my bookshelf. Joe, you got anything to add?
I mean, for a construction estimator, I mean, you gotta, I mean, proper documentation, proper accountability. I mean, there's so many parts of it. I mean, for an estimator, because you got to know, not just because to be a good estimator, you have to be you can't just be a jack of all trades, master of none. Like you damn near need to be a master of all trades, or else you're going to dramatically underestimate it. So like
Yes,
number one is education. Like the amount of books and PDF files and videos that I watch in my free time, like just learning new construction methods, understanding how things are supposed to be built, like that is the number one thing that makes a good estimator good or not, is because if you don't understand how construction works, you're not going to know how to estimate for it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna lean on Mr. John Isaacson in the Be Intentional Estimating.
That's a good book. I got that one.
It's a great book. And he says these are the commandments. 10 commandments. Okay. Commandment number 1, thou shalt sketch accurately. So, I'd say, yeah, it means how are you getting, do you have a solid system to get your sketches, whether that's DocuSketch, Encircle, Matterport, whatever else.
And the sketch you guys are using for the mitigation should be the exact same sketch you guys are using for the reconstruction. If you guys are having to text at sketch 1 and then you have to send out a project manager estimator and they have to re-sketch it out, then you're already failing from an estimator standpoint as far as business goes, because you should be able to, it should be the same sketch every time to show fluidity, to show, open book.
Consistency.
Yeah, because that's the word I was looking for. Sorry.
Fluidity. I like that word too, though. It's a good word. Okay, so I'm just going to go through his commandments. Number 2, thou canst not take too many photos. I second that. Number 3, thou shalt label thy photos descriptively. Nice. Number 4, thou shalt utilize thy F9 notes. Yes, please. Justify.
Do
Number
not
5,
ever fall for. Oh, hang on. I'm going to chime in on that.
Go ahead.
Do not listen to people who say there's such a thing as too many F9 notes. I've seen numerous people say, "Oh, it looks like you're just bullshitting because you have F9 notes all around the place." If you can answer the question the adjuster's going to have before they even have to call you and ask it, you're already ahead of the game. Like especially on mitigation, this is how I got my calculations. This is how many square feet. This is why I need this line item. Like F9 note the living hell out of your estimate. Anytime you make anything you're making that you have to customize on, or if you need to justify how, or they're going to ask me, well, how did you get to that number for days of equipment monitoring? F9 noted. Don't just put down there 3 days, 2 hours. Like, be a little bit more descriptive, and it will make your life a million times easier.
Number 5, thou shalt document thy initial findings. Okay, interesting. Thou shalt update thy adjuster in real time and document consistently. Now, keep in mind, Mr. Isaacson lives in program land, where, I would replace the word adjuster and say, thou shalt update thy client in real time. Number 7, what do you think?
Everybody knows that the estimating world, the billing world, it's a game you have to play, and it's how you play it is if you win or not. There are certain times when communicating with the adjuster is absolutely the best choice. A great example would be, I was just having a conversation with a guy last night. He's one of my guys' friends is attending Reach Drying Academy to learn all about how to properly dry out houses finally. Which, by the way, not a plug, I'm not paid by them, but if you want a very solid water damage class for your techs to go to, Reach Drying Academy is by far my favorite. And I've attended like 5 different schools
They've
I
been
love
doing
those.
it a long time. And Jeremy he's like the godfather of drawing. So yeah.
But, for example, you get I don't care if it's category 1 or category, you have a hardwood floors are affected. There, send in the adjuster an email or giving the adjuster a call. Hey, we're going to try to map this. It's damaged. I don't think it's salvageable, but I'm going to try to map this and give it 48 hours. After 48 hours, I'll let you know if it's responding or not. You call that adjuster up. He might say on the 48 hours, hey, go ahead and try for another 2 days before you tear that floor out. Because that gets you document it that you had the discussion with the adjuster. Now you got 4 days of like a mat system, and then you get to tear the floor out. Or you just tear the floor out ahead just because it's not going to dry. You get the adjusters and all complaining like you tore this out, blah, 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 blah. Or, you send the estimate over and it says 4 days of drying mat systems, and then you tore it out and you didn't F9 note it. And that's why you get a lot of questions back to the F9 thing about how things are working. Sometimes working with the adjusters actually can be in your favor if you utilize it in the correct fashion. You don't have to go in and say, am I allowed to tear this out? But give them, sometimes if you have 2 choices, let them pick the best choice. And a lot of times it will work out in your favor. Do you want me to try to dry this, or should I go ahead and tear it out? They'll say, try to dry it. And then 24, 48 hours later, didn't work. I'm going to tear it out now. And now can.
So why would you not involve your client in that conversation?
Well, in my experience, personally, most times the judges or the clients don't have any damn clue what you're the professional, Joe. You tell me what needs to be done here.
Well, and the adjuster's not the professional either.
Well, they like to think they are, but
yes, they do.
I mean, but that is, because the thing is a lot of the adjusters end up having to send it over to their review divisions anyways, no matter what. So if you can get ahead of the game with having that note in the system that says, Mr. Smith approved this for 2 days or 4 days of drying before tear out was done, it's going to make it where your turnaround, your collection dates do speed up because that note's in your estimate.
Okay.
They can valid, because that's my, like I said, me, I play both sides of the fence a lot of times. Like, you don't have to, if you're billing the homeowner directly, then, bill them what's, accurate, but if you do work with the adjusters and you try to have a good relationship, like play the game a little bit, but cover your butt, document that you said something, and here's the conversation we had. And it can go a long way about not just helping your estimate get approved, but speeding up that collections time, because then you don't have people trying to bark and complain and ask questions.
Well, I would also add that if we don't do things that we think the adjuster's going to complain about, we're not going to do anything. So there's we can't live our lives or run our businesses based upon a complaint from somebody who really has no pull or excuse me, no real expertise. I do understand you are trying to excuse me, remove friction from the system. I get that. But I just want to be conscious that everything we do has a trade-off. Everything we do has action reaction, and the reaction of us just acquiescing too much and going, okay, well, we're not going to bill for it if the adjuster might complain about it. We're just going down a road that we can't go down. And yeah, absolutely keep the players involved, keep everyone up to date. But man, I would really hesitate to recommend that anyone not involve their client in a conversation like that, because it ultimately affects the bill that they're going to be owing to pay. Right?
I agree completely. You should never, if you're sending an email off, the homeowner should always be CC'd on it. If they call you and want to talk to you, say, hang on a second, and call your homeowner, 3-way them in and say, Mr. Adjuster, I'm here with the homeowner. So they're part of this conversation because they're my client, and they need to understand that, even if I'm justifying it and I can quote you and you still say no, they're still on the hook for the bill. And a lot of times, if you have that homeowner in the email seeing the responses, if you have them on the phone and they're just listening in and they hear your, per the S500 book that we follow, here's why we did this, they'll chirp up and they'll be on your side, and it will put the adjusters in a position where they have to acquiesce and just say, okay. And sure. That's like I said, it's a game you have to play, and some people don't want to play it. They just build a homeowner and say, screw it, and don't talk to the adjusters at all, which is a perfect choice. But if you are playing the game, use it to your advantage. Yeah.
Well, if you're going to play the game, try to understand the rules as best you can. and then play the freaking game. Play it hard, play it to win. All right. Okay. Thou shalt learn thy carrier's guidelines. I do not like commandment number 7, Mr. John Isaacson. I'm a conscientious objector. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Number 8, thou shalt know thy line items. Apply thyself to understanding the process of line item approvals. Wow. Okay. I didn't realize how hard this book was swinging over to the TPA side. Commandment number 9, thou shalt know thy line items. Wait a minute. That's number. Oh, it's a sub. Thou shalt understand thy line item descriptions. Great advice. Number 10, thou shalt learn to master the trifecta of services, expedience, and accuracy. Okay, that's a chapter I need to reread. Awesome. So I think we answered the question here for construction estimator. There. All right, let's move on. Came across a mitigation bill from. How does this happen? How do you do a job and find it 2 years later you haven't billed for it?
Bad management.
I don't send it. Gene Axelrod, I'm going to respectfully disagree. 2 years go by, those costs have been incurred 2 years ago, and you never bothered to bill your client. That's on you, man. If I'm that client 2 years on, I'm pissed. Yeah, I got something for free 2 years ago. Okay, but just to send the bill? Oh, I forgot to bill you for it? Give them something. Give them something. Hey, I'm so sorry. Total oversight on our part. We did this work for you. I hope you found value from it. Here's our bill, but I'm going to take 50% off. Something. But just to send it over, I mean, that's just dumb, in my opinion. All right, Okay. Yeah, that's the other thing. They might be beyond their 2-year limit to add anything to that claim anyway. Oof.
That's statute of limitations. Yep.
Yep. Whole house flooded, linoleum except 2 baths, 1 laundry. They tiled over what? They put tile over linoleum?
Well, back up. I guarantee you it was vinyl flooring. The amount of people that don't know that there is 100% difference between linoleum and vinyl is ridiculous. People, you think it's interchangeable, like saying Kleenex or tissue paper. Linoleum is a completely different product than vinyl, and too many people think that it's the same thing.
But still, I would imagine that tile, no matter how thick that that mortar bed was, that tile's going to start popping up all over the place.
Yeah, I guarantee you it was a vinyl sheet good product. They put a cement board on top of that, hopefully an underlayment between them, but at least cement board, and then tiled it up and everything. And you always take the floor down to the lowest level, the subfloor, for drying because of pocket moisture problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that linoleum or vinyl below that is going to act as a moisture barrier, and you're going to have pools. You're going to have water pools underneath. Hopefully they used a backer board of some kind, but woof. Okay. But here's the gist of it. The adjuster is saying just to clean. So the adjuster is stepping in, trying to affect scope. And when we let a third party, non-professional, dictate our scope, it's not like you can put the liability for that shitty scope on them. The liability for that shitty scope is still on you. So you might as well do a good scope. And
as a contractor, if you leave that wet, the adjuster said just clean it. If it molds and then the homeowner gets an ants up their pants, last man in the pool holds, is it. You're going to be the one liable for it because you left it behind.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, Christina, stop taking your scope orders from adjusters. You're in this group for a reason. So I hope you expect that kind of freaking answer. Okay, Mark, man, we could do this all day. You got something burning in your britches there, John? You want to talk, or Joe? You want to talk about? Or we can just keep going down the road here.
fine with this, man. I was like, I enjoy this here.
Look at this. That's a leak. Yeah. Has anyone dealt with being denied for an intermittent leak in presence of mold? I don't understand the intermittent leak denial. It's straightforward, sudden, accidental. The drain line broke while homeowner was taking a shower. The mold is in a separate area, blah, blah, blah. Also curious how they can deem mold without an environmentalist report. State Farm denied our client of coverage for this reason. Yeah, attorney up, brother. Attorney up. That's a wrongful denial. And unless you're an attorney or a PA, you can't take that on. But I agree 100%. Just based on this video, this is not a long-term leak. This is sudden.
And remember, guys, especially when somebody tries to pull this shit of saying, well, we don't cover the mold or whatever. Mold coverage is specifically for mold claims. Like I'm
mold damage. Yes.
I'm remodeling my kitchen. I take the cabinets out. Nothing's wet, but I have a big patch of mold and all. That's a mold claim. If you have a water damage and mold develops because of the water damage in the same affected area, that's a secondary cause of damage, that should be covered under the water damage claim and thus the policy. Like, am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Mr. P? Yeah.
Yes.
And the thing is with mold, like I will not mention mold to anybody until
there's no good reason to.
Until after my justified work scope for a mitigation claim is done. So let's say it's a basement and it was a sump pump failure and there's mold 3 feet up the wall. I'm not going to call out anyone about mold until after I've demoed, cleaned my studs, and did everything the mitigation requires, and I can go up to 4 feet justifiably from a bottom up loss. And now after I take out 4 feet, if there's still microbial growth above that, or then I will say we might need to approach mold problems because obviously it's been something else is causing all this additional mold because it hasn't had enough time to grow that much mold from this loss. That's different, but you guys should not even have to even worry about mold until after your techs say, hey, we're done demoing, we're done cleaning, but can we set up air equipment because there's still mold in here? That's when you put a damper on and you say, well, now let's address the mold problem.
Yeah.
Too many people walk in, they take a baseboard off and they go, oh my God, there's mold. Let's call the adjuster. And now they went from having coverage A full limit policy numbers to a $10,000 cap because it would have been, the question when it comes to mold is, if the mold was not there, would you still remove this section of wall or baseboard? Yep. Then it's part of the mitigation.
Yeah.
It's when section that you cannot justify removal on.
Just because it has mold growing on it doesn't mean you can't treat it like wet drywall and tear it out. Absolutely take precautions, right? Take necessary precautions. You're the professional. Put your guys in PPE, right? Set up containment. Do your due diligence.
You should always do that. You guys should be taping off your register vents. That way if the homeowner says there's mold in the house and all, or they're worried and they have it tested while you're there, whatever. Well, we had everything sealed off. And before we started work, disturbing this growth, causing airflow and to aerosolize, not on us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the adjusters will try to say, oh, well, if there's mold, I'll cover, whatever related to the mold, it has another policy. 9 times out of 10, the mold policy might only be let's say the duct cleaning of the rest of the house or something if the house is fully contaminated because you handled the mitigation section.
Correct. Yeah. And OSHA has given us plenty of guidance to use air scrubbers and negative air containment on every job, not just asbestos jobs, not just mold jobs, every job. So do it. And then don't mention mold. Mark also says a PA we regularly use won't take this case due to the insurance carrier involved. Well, it sounds like you need to find a new PA. But yeah, State Farm is hellacious to work with or try to deal with. But my rates reflect that. And I'll take the job. If I was licensed in that state, I'll take that job. But my rates are going to reflect the pain in the ass that I anticipate.
And remember, on a mitigation claim, most policies dictate that it has to be sudden and accidental. Obviously, no one thinks they did this on purpose. Suddenly, for hidden items like behind a dishwasher, the shower pan leaking, you can't, unless it's like, especially when it comes to drain lines, those are not pressurized. It's not like a rupture that's going to flood out, in 5 minutes you're going to find it. As long as you're documenting that there was no way anybody, you get your homeowners to understand there's no way you would have saw this until it reared its ugly face. And then immediately you called somebody, that's their due diligence. Like the amount of times I've got a dishwasher leak where, we pulled the dishwasher out and there's full of mold behind there. And it
From the time of discovery, yes.
But, they said, well, as soon as I noticed this floor was squishing or I saw a little bit of bone, I called you guys out here. That's a covered loss. Like now they're like, oh, well, if they're like, thought it was wet, a ceiling spot, my ceiling was wet, but I let it dry and it's been leaking for about 3 years now. That's different,
Found this behind the wall of a house built in 1907. Ideas?
Ooh, that's balloon construction there, it looks like.
It looks like, what is that? What is that? It looks like just calcification, or doesn't look like mold to me.
Looks almost like effervescence you would see on
it looks like effervescence, is that the right word? Something like that. Whatever's left over after water goes through and the minerals in that water are distilled and calcified.
That's the original exterior boards. Those are not no treated, top choice lumber from Lowe's there. Like those things probably are breathing and sweating all day long. Like I could imagine, surface swab it. I would have an IEP surface swab it and then say, here's what you need to do. And
it looks like they had some sort of wallpaper over wood veneer paneling.
See, that looks like, I would think that was a shore out because the lumber wasn't perfectly straight, so they shimmed it. And then
that could be it. But there's paper residue here.
I think that's probably either insulation.
That's dry. Oh, that's drywall. That's drywall.
That's drywall paper. It's glued. It's glued and screwed is what I'm thinking.
Glued and screwed. Yeah. So this looks like maybe that's insulation. Yeah, that looks weird.
Test it.
If you're worried about it, test it. Well, either way, I wouldn't button up that wall, leaving it like that.
That looks pretty fuzzy. That looks like
get some dry ice going. But it looks like it's just this cavity, that cavity, and it looks kind of weans itself off by the third cavity. Yeah.
On a side note, that wall needs to be cleaned up more before you guys call it done. That study.
Yeah, that ain't done. That ain't done. Jerry et al. I love that guy. All right. If you guys want to get your sales guys up to speed and get more work from agents, get a hold of Jerry. He'll show you how. Joe Johnson, how many of you have been training, have a training station flood house to train new guys? Okay. Good for you, Joe. That's above and beyond. I like it. But every major training house has a flood house. That's just how it goes. But it looks like, that's not a bad setup. I like that. It's sexy. Okay. Yeah, not everyone has a huge warehouse you can do something like that in, but hey, more power to you. More power to you. Matthew Mulholland. Oh my goodness. So I watched, is this the one I just watched? Maybe. No, this is the one I just watched. I just watched one this morning from Matthew talking about engineering reports. And I want to make it to one of his classes. I know for a fact he's in Tulsa, Oklahoma today, giving one of his engineer, how to fight the fake engineering report scenario. I got to take that. I got to take that class. All right. Beautiful. HEPA. All right.
I am bothered that they left the casing on the door there and take the drywall all the way to the edge, so you can't get in that crack between there.
I mean, what are you saving by leaving the casing?
And they cut the drywall. It looks like I mean, did they dig it out with a screw? I mean, there's nails in there. Like you're gonna have to take that casing off anyways. on the recon side, like you should have went ahead and taken it off. And that drywall's, that drywall's cut flush. Like, no offense, but I say that
You're going to have to tear it apart to repair it anyway. So just take it
if
off
you're
now.
a mountain levy, I mean, just like when you flood cut, it's a 2-foot flood cut. You cut, but you don't cut 24 inches. You cut 24.5 inches because you have to leave a 1/2 inch gap along the base. If you're not leaving a 1/2 inch of drywall sticking out, then go ahead and take your casings off and everything, because you can't tie the drywall in without it.
Yeah. And Scott Miller had it right here. Why are the casings and trim still on the door? Great questions. Okay. Okay, here's one. Vinyl siding damage. Over the years, it has been noticeably more difficult to get insurance adjusters to approve full siding replacement. I hate that word. Never get approval from adjuster. They are not your client. Only 1 or 2 elevations are damaged. I've done patchwork. I've done single elevation replacements. I've never, ever gotten a perfect match to existing, and you never will. These days, the adjuster says, nope, we only owe for damages, period, which is horseshit. Okay, so I leave it to the homeowner to decide what they want to, pony up for full replacement. As I progress in this industry, I've actually decreased the amount of time I spent fighting adjusters. Good for you. And it's helped my mental health. There are a few items that still always bother me, though. This is one. Anybody have any golden wisdom dealing with vinyl siding replacement? What do you think, Joe?
I'll put it this way here. Too many times I see people go out and look at a roof or look at siding, and that's all they look at on the properties. And when it goes to appraisal, if it goes to umpire work, like it gets tore apart and everything for justification. Like, you should be looking at everything. Look at the mailbox. Look at, pay attention to, your window screens. If the thing is a storm's going to come in from a certain direction. So there's very rarely will you have storm damage that causes damage to all 4 sides of the house anyways, because of the way the wind is blowing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're finding siding damage, I get, and you're you're going to find it on average on 2 sides of the house at a minimum, because it comes from the northeast, southeast or southwest up to the northeast usually. I mean, look outside of there to show a full picture to help justify your calls for the new siding. A lot of times, I mean, I get siding full replacements usually as long as the corner channel is, the same color. It's when that corner channel is white and you have like gray siding or something, that's when they're like clear line of separation. They don't want to pay for it past there. And that's the thing.
I've got a couple things. First off, most insurance policies provide for what's called a reasonably uniform appearance. So if that siding matched, it was reasonably uniform before the loss, and half of that siding got damaged, well, in order to replace it, put them back in pre-loss condition to have a reasonably uniform appearance of that siding, all of it has to be replaced. Secondly, like roof systems, a siding is a system. It's a cladding system. It's a system designed to work, all the pieces designed to work together to provide, shedding water, not, fighting wind and insulation. The siding system has several different functions, and you can't just pick and choose which parts of that damaged system to replace. You've got to replace that whole thing as a system. So that's what I do. And when you go into these things, you've got things like house wrap they're just full of holes from the original installation. Now you're going to what are you going to reuse that house wrap, or try to figure out where that overlap should go? There's no way to guarantee that siding system unless you replace the entire system. So those are my stances.
And one thing I'll tell you this here that I've used to my benefit. So Andy, I know you've talked before about the exact scope, using it for the roofs and stuff. And, normal people don't have to use it. But when Xactimate generates the line items for you, it'll generate it where it'll say like tear off the roof, but it'll put like ice and water, felt, and like 14-inch, flat valley flashing all as replacement only by default, because in Xactimate's line item, their opinion is the tear off of the roof means to tear it down to the and all. So the sidewall and your sidewall and your step flashing are included in the tear off line item pricing. Is what how exactly Larry looks at it. So you anytime you get an adjuster, well, we don't feel a need to replace the 14-inch flashing. You're gonna have to photo it. Well, it's already included in the tear off, so I have to replace it. The same is true with your siding. If you do have exterior, house wrap, that house wrap has to have what is it, like a 24-inch overlap on corners. You can't replace house wrap just and stop right there at the edges. You have to wrap it around, which means you have to, at a bare minimum, charge for detach and resetting of the siding. And then guess what? Now, well, it's never going to come off without getting damaged. I've never seen someone take off a whole wall of siding and put it back together again without issues.
Never.
And it's thoughts and not F9 knowing it like that helps you justify. Well, bare minimum, then I got to take off this third side of the house, and if it gets damaged, then we have 75%. You're going to end up paying for the whole house anyways.
Yeah, that's one of my pet peeves of Xactimate is there are some items there should not be a detach and reset option. Houses are not Legos. Cabinets are not Legos. They don't come apart and go back together whenever we decide to put them back together. So detaching and resetting siding in my book is the same as detaching and resetting MDF baseboard. It's going to look like garbage, and it's not going to put them back in pre-loss condition. So it's always replaced for me on those items. It's never detach. It's just stupid. There's very few items actually that I ever use detach. And it usually comes from the adjuster. So let's go to Mr.
Now, see, I'll tell you, I'll play the game though. I'll do it like detach and reset, half charge for the detachment only and all. And then when I'm like, hey, this can't be reused, I'll leave it as the detach because it takes extra effort to detach as opposed to
it does
remove. And we took the extra time and care to detach this, tried to do our best to save it, but we weren't able to. I'm not going to just change it to remove and replace. I'm going to keep it as detach and then replace and all because if you're switching it, I mean, you're giving away money.
Yeah, that's playing the game. But I'm just too.
You're overplaying the game. I'm a devil's advocate. I wake up every morning saying, "Ooh, who do I get to argue with today?" Like, I like playing the game. I can't help it.
Yeah, but if I know the truth of what I'm doing, I'm going to tell the truth of what I'm doing. I'm not going to detach this. I'm going to replace it. It's not going to come off good. So, okay, Mr. Ilnitsky. I have a client called Ilnitsky. I wonder if you're related. How do you guys go about collecting the deductible at the start of the job when they sign up the work authorization? What else do you need? I like what Tommy and Patrick said. It is not contractors do not collect deductibles. The deductible is between the insured and the insurance company. But what you can do is collect a deposit, and that deposit can magically be the exact same number as their deductible, right? In that way, they pay your deposit. You get a little bit of money to start the job, or at least get the paperwork started. And then as long as they show their carrier, their adjuster, that they already paid this $500 to you or this $1,000 to you, that is the deductible from their side. But you don't want to be in the business of calling it a deductible. It's just too messy. You don't want to get involved in that.
And the nice thing also about deductibles is from a contractual agreement, like not only have they signed your paperwork and saying they understood, but they financially have invested in this project.
It's consideration. It's consideration.
It does help you. It helps you. And like I said, even if I have $1,000, I don't have $1,000. Well, can you do $100? Like, give me something, and it helps justify later on down the road when you go to collect that you knew what you were entering into to the point that you even paid us a deposit. Mm-hmm. I need the rest of
that solidifies that contract as valid. Okay. Does anyone have a method to capture extra waste and labor for Versailles stone insulation? I don't know Versailles stone at all, but I do know that If you're finding, I'm assuming you're using Xactimate. If you're finding Xactimate's not really capturing that, go in and change the supporting events.
Under the supporting events below the labor section, you'll see material like drywall is set at 15%, paint is set at 5% by default. Change those percentages to what you think it's actually going to be.
Mm-hmm. Homeowner was assigned an insurance carrier by their bank. Ugh. Lender enforced policies are the worst. Do they operate similar to all the standard carriers? No, they do not. Usually those carrier force policies have smaller limits, and frankly, smaller rights for the insured. And oftentimes it's the bank is the named insured. The homeowner or home, they're not, I guess they don't own the home if the mortgage company does. But the homeowner is usually not even on those policies.
This is me a little bit jaded. This is what I'll tell you. If I know it's a bank enforced policy, I walk away from it.
Garbage, yeah.
Well, not only that, but what a bank enforced policy 9 times out of 10 means is that the homeowner has been irresponsible and not kept up with their homeowner's insurance to the point that the bank stepped in and said, you know what, we have a vested interest in this property. We're going to make sure this place is covered.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to take whatever we give you at that point. And if you're working for a client who's not financially responsible enough to keep their own homeowner's insurance active, that someone else had to step in, then that's a red flag to me that in the future there's going to be other issues. Whether
we like to say we help everyone, but I'm with you on that one.
It's got to be a good fit for you just as much as it's got to be a good fit for them. And if it's not a good fit for you, then if you ever have a bad feeling, it's better to walk away than to hand over thousands of dollars because they claim
that's what you're gonna do.
The precious moments, doll from great grandma.
Oh yeah. And Brad Wilson's got it right here too. They're usually ACV policies, so you're never gonna be able to make them whole anyway. And if they got a bank enforced policy and it's ACV, there's no chance. There's very little chance they're going to be able to make up the difference out of pocket between the ACV and the RCV. So that's a charity job. And if you run a charity, go do that work.
Do the mitigation, but don't agree to
do the MIT, but walk from the repairs. Absolutely, all day long. Okay, I don't want to get into that.
I think I commented on that one.
Okay. Okay. Oh shoot, it's 2:02. We're done. We are done. It was fun having you, Joe. No one else decided to join us today, but just so everyone knows, we are going to be, I reset the clock on the webinar, the recurring webinar. So that doesn't expire till March next year at this point. So get in here next Thursday, 1 p.m. Pacific, and let's do this again.
And if you guys are planning on it next month at the RA, I know that me and Andy both are trying to make our presence there. And, I'd like to say, if you guys are out there, and you all message us, let us know. I'd love to
make it happen. We should try to do a Rebel thing on the 23rd.
Dinner. No clubbing, no bar, dinner. Okay.
Clubbing.
Bunch of restoration guys at the club. Something tells me that would end up very bad for most of us.
All right. Be good, guys. We'll see you.